The energy crisis in China is the last thing the country wants right now. So what is going on? How did the energy crisis become such a mess so fast? Many of the manufacturers are shut down. Many of them are told to stop production temporarily. The power crunch has affected not only the industries but also the daily life in China. The residential power usage is already limited with restrictions. It has caused houses and roads to be left without electricity. Reports on the power crisis is giving a scary picture. It is also notable that the resumption of many of the shutdown factories will be highly unlikely soon. Even if they start working, it will be for 2 or 3 days a week. The business cycles of these companies are already affected. Orders may ship late, and these issues are difficult on the businesses which are dependent on the Chinese factories. Many of the factories have stopped taking orders. Especially they are turning down orders from the overseas customers. At the same time, the prices of raw materials have been increasing at an alarming rate, which is not at all helping the whole situation. So guys, is China facing a multitude of issues at the same time? While we get into it, you should make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications for the latest finance updates in the market. So everyone, economists have been talking about this. Power crunch was coming into picture earlier this year in China. Major companies have downgraded their growth forecast for the year. Goldman Sachs has told that their growth is going to be zero, literally zero for the third quarter. The important need for the companies right now would be to stay in the business, to keep the business alive. Rather than growth, the existence would be the essential thing to be taken care of now. Manufacturing and exports is one of the strong pillars of the Chinese economy. Around 18% of China's GDP comes from the exports of goods and services. These areas were supposed to help the GDP, while the economy is incredibly affected by the real estate sector. However, that hope is crushing down. The Chinese industrial production has been reducing from the start of this year. The production rates, which was at 14% in April, has decreased to 5.3% in August 2021. The full impact of the electricity crunch is still not rolled out yet. Some major manufacturers like Apple are still managing. However, many others are falling apart. The electricity shortage is essentially caused by decreased availability of coal and natural gas. China's 2/3 of its electricity comes through usage of coal. The energy shortage has affected China's manufacturing sectors of steel, aluminium and cement. These sectors are heavily dependent on the electricity consumption. As we all can see that winter season is coming and this is only going to increase the demand for coal. China is the world's top energy consumer. It is one of the important coal hubs as well. The country is breaking its own rules to manage the energy crisis that is gripping the economy so badly. Coal miners are being ordered to get maximum output without worrying about the expenses. In the third quarter, the miners are expected to push out 12 million tons of fuel per day. This incredibly large target is the bare minimum that they need right now to run the economy. Chinese oil refineries also have been working hard to keep up the diesel production to meet the rising demand. They don't want diesel to be another commodity in short supply. State-owned refineries are trying to produce more crude oil so that it can be used to power trucks and productions. Some local fuel stations have already limited the fuel supply to trucks as 100 liters per vehicle. So the energy crisis has increased the demand of diesel, which is causing the diesel prices to soar sky high. It's at a 3-year high at this time when I'm talking with you. State refineries has to work hard to fill the huge supply gap. China has reduced exports and increased imports to boost the inventories. The country cannot keep importing and buying diesel at huge prices for a long period of time. This will eventually break the system. And the most dreaded outcome of this might be stagflation. There is an inflation right around the corner. That's also deepening the effect. As for the producers, the increased price of raw materials has to be transferred to the customers, making the prices go higher at every stage till the end consumer. When slow economic growth and joblessness is combined with rising inflation, it leads to stagflation. To avoid this situation, the lowering of GDP has to be curbed and China will have to make sure that the GDP is improving at any cost. And the power crunch in China is affecting the world economy as well. Everywhere the productions are impacted. Oil and natural gas prices have reached their peak. When supply chain is dragged, the prices will increase for the end consumer. So China is very cautious. The country can't afford to lose the momentum in GDP growth and let the economy slide into a stagflation. This pushes a high demand to buy energy to cover the needs, thus increasing the energy prices further ahead. The State Power Investment Corporation is one of the country's largest power firms. They requested for a 3 million tons of fuel to a key coal supplier, China's Shenhua Energy Company, only to get an additional 30,000 tons. The tricky fact is that increasing the expenses of work or manpower in coal mines cannot guarantee an increase in the coal production. After all, it's a non-renewable energy source that we take from Mother Earth. The pandemic is a major catalyst for the sudden energy crisis in China. As soon as the country emerged out of lockdown, the Chinese economy recovered faster and efficiently. This led to an obvious higher energy demand, and it was satisfied by a rapid production of coal. Coal was relied on for the unexpected increase of demand because it is a stable source of energy. Other renewable sources like wind and solar power are unstable. The climatic changes have made it difficult to harness these energies at required amount at required times. Hence, the coal production was increased. Unfortunately, the rigorous working of mining factories caused some mining accidents earlier this year. As a result, government had put restrictions on the working of coal mining factories. The restrained industry struggled to push out coal production with much limitations in their working protocol. So as the demand was high and the production was struggling, the coal prices increased abruptly by mid of 2021. Along with this, the power demand saw a surge towards August and September, and it is still rising. With not enough wind and hydropower and reduced coal mining, at this high power demand times, the country had to cut short power supply to certain sectors to make sure that the prioritized industries are not affected at all. Also, with increased coal production, now China is taking a step back in its carbon emission policies. Global warming is a worldwide issue. China has a population of 1.4 billion and a growing economy which is filled with industries. The country is responsible for the majority of greenhouse gases emission in the world today. In 2020, Chinese President Xi Jinping has said that country will attain carbon neutrality by 2060. One of the main reasons for carbon emissions in China is coal mining. Majority of China's power consumption comes from coal. A radical shift in this area is required for carbon emission curbs. China had been trying to cut down the coal usage to generate electricity from last few years. In 2017, more than 80% of the country's electricity came just from coal. However, by 2019, this was reduced to around 60%. While this was an inevitable step for China to take, the current power demands would have been manageable if the coal production was still going higher as before. China could not make an efficient shift to other renewable energies while they cut down their coal production. China has shut down many coal refineries in the last few years to make the shift. The power shortage in China has already started impacting its export business. This means within few months, the world economy is going to bear the consequences. Many assembly parts of products are manufactured in China, especially smartphones and cars. They have export services to almost all parts of the world. Industry giants from different world countries have their production house in China. And online shopping has increased so much these days, especially because of the pandemic. So the demand for more products at a shorter time period is the future. As from what we can see, China is not prepared for this situation. Now guys, it's your turn to tell me in the comment section about the energy crisis in China and to know what Evergrande did at the last moment to save itself from being defaulted. Click on this video.